Hi everybody, Dr. Gates here. In theory class, we are looking at a lot of new techniques and procedures that are considered post-tonal. And in this video, I would like to go through a really wonderful piece for solo piano by Claude Debussy. It is called The Engulfed Cathedral. It is in your anthology on page 179. Take a look at that and grab a pencil. I'm going to walk through this piece and play certain passages and hopefully illustrate some of the things that you're learning about. Before we get into some of the specific musical devices Debussy is using, it's important to know what this piece is about. This is a programmatic piece. It tells a narrative story and uses music to paint this picture. In this piece, Debussy is referencing an old legend about a sunken church cathedral. Think of something that looks like Notre Dame, perhaps. Imagine that this is underwater, and every once in a while, it rises to the surface, and you can hear the bells, the organ, priests chanting, and all of the sounds within that cathedral, and then it sinks back down underwater, and the bubbles are bubbling up as it sinks back underwater. So there's a lot of beautiful, evocative imagery that Debussy pulls from and uses the piano to really paint some of these pictures. Let's hear the first portion of this piece. So from the very beginning, Debussy paints this very placid, calm texture, which evokes the very still water that this cathedral is sunken in. And there's a lot going on in these first measures that we can point to in terms of some of our new techniques that we're studying. Look at the collection of pitches that we see in all of these quarter notes in both hands together. You'll notice there are Ds, Es, Gs, A's, and B's. That's it. If we arrange those in ascending order and start on G, what we get is the G pentatonic collection. If we write these in integer notation, that would translate to 7, which is G, 9, which is A, 11, which is B, 2 is D, and 4 is E. Again, this is the G pentatonic scale, which is a subset of the G major scale. It's scale degrees 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. And there is something else at work here that's very important. Notice the voicing that Debussy uses on this first quarter note. It's a lot of stacked fourths and fifths. There are no thirds in the actual voicing, so it's very non-tertian in terms of the way he's stacked it. This is reminiscent of the quartal and quintal chord structures that we'll see in this 20th century time period. In addition to that, he is also using a technique called planing. So he establishes a specific vertical structure and then simply moves up, 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 up through his collection using the exact same vertical structure. It's like the hands are locked together in a certain shape and are just moving up and down. This is called planing. And it's a very important feature in the music of Debussy especially, but many other composers as well. But let's move forward and talk about a few other things that we see in this piece. I'm going to play the recording from measure 14, which is the same music that we saw at the beginning, and then watch what happens in measure 16. You can see right away that there are entirely new pitch classes at work here. We have lots of sharps. This is a beautiful moment where things really start to bubble up. You can feel like something's happening. Also notice the rhythmic activity increases in the texture. Okay, let's talk about what just happened there. After this G pentatonic collection, Debussy suddenly shifts into a B pentatonic collection. So he uses one note that is in common between these two collections, the B, and then just shifts into this new collection. The voicings change as well. We do have a lot more thirds and even seconds to create a little bit more bite and activity in what's happening here. Let's let it play just for a few more bars and watch what happens in measure 19. So did you hear that shift? A similar thing happens in measure 19. He goes into E flat pentatonic. So there is one note in common between B pentatonic and E flat pentatonic, and that is the D sharp or E flat. I think this might illustrate better what I'm trying to convey here. So from that G pentatonic collection he started with, he took the note B and built another pentatonic scale on that, and then in the same way, he took this third degree and started a new pentatonic scale on that. So we get this progression from G up a third to B, up a third to E flat. So it's highly constructed. It's not an accident, but it has this feeling of almost improvisation and freedom. I'd like to fast forward a little bit in the piece to measure 28 at the bottom of page 180. At this point, we are really starting to hear and feel the cathedral rising out of the water. And sure enough, we hear something. This passage is very evocative of a organ, like a pipe organ. So listen for that color and sound that Debussy pulls out of a piano. And it's all with his very thick tertian voicings with lots of doubling. And look at the technique that we see here. This is maybe one of the best examples of planing. So write this in your anthology here, measure 28. This section is planing. Debussy is taking a diatonic collection in this case, the C major white note collection, and moving through that collection with the same shape of voicing over and over and over. All of the intervals are remaining the same. So it's parallel octaves, parallel fifths, all of the things that you've been told not to do. They are used freely here because this is not counterpoint. This is just trying to create color. And we're not worried about things like parallel octaves. It's really a single melody that is thickened with this planing process. Let's hear this. Such a great moment in this piece, don't you think? I'd like to point out one other thing. In measure 33, we get a new pitch class, and that is the B flat. Prior to that, all Bs were natural. So think about this, everybody. The center of this passage remains C, that low C that never goes away, keeps us centered on the pitch C. Yet the collection changes to include B flat. So this is an example of modality. We have a very Mixolydian flavor to this passage because of the lowered 7th scale degree. So just make a little notation in your anthology that starting in measure 33, we have a passage of C Mixolydian mode. Let's move forward a bit to measure 72. This is a wonderful moment in the piece where the cathedral has sunk back down underwater. Yet the organ apparently is still playing because we can hear very faintly the pipes of that organ coming through the water. Listen to how Debussy achieves that effect. That's really wonderful, right? So the left hand is a big part of this. It is playing an ostinato. An ostinato is a technique where you repeat a rhythmic and melodic pattern over and over while other things around it are changing. So the left hand really just cycles through the same pattern of eighth notes. And the lowness of this particular shape on the piano creates this watery, murky depth that I think helps evoke the image that Debussy is trying to convey. And shortly thereafter, the piece comes to a close, and it ends much like it begins, with the same pitch collection and the bells gently tolling. So I hope you enjoyed this piece. We didn't get to hear the whole thing in this video. I will post a recording of the entire piece, and I really strongly encourage you to listen to the whole thing with and without the score. It's a great piece. Take note of what we've seen in this piece: planing, ostinato, pentatonic pitch collections, perhaps most importantly, non-functional harmony. There are no Roman numerals that we can really use in this piece. That's just not the right tool. Debussy is using other compositional techniques. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.